welcome to another episode of Acceptable Madness, where I am not a doctor, but I talk about mental health things anyway. Today, I want to talk about one of my biggest fears in the entire world, besides dying alone, being forgotten, the ocean, heights a little bit, being infected with parasites, death as a whole, which is weird because that's, part of the reason I made this podcast was suicidal thoughts. So I'm simultaneously terrified of death, but also sometimes think about it. But no, it's none of those fears, because I don't think many of those would make very good episodes to a podcast. But the other fear that is the most likely to affect me sooner rather than later, I fucking hope it's not parasites. That's awful. But it's complacency. So the reason that I wanted to talk about this is because, you know what? I'm not ashamed to say that sometimes life can be a real pain in the tuchus. It's not always great. Sometimes it'll kick you until you're down, and then it'll kick you while you're down, and then it'll spit in your face and continue kicking you until you're a bloody pulp laying on the ground. Other times it's nice, but most of the time you're that bloody pulp. And I want to talk about what a potential outcome of having to deal with the daily struggles of life could be. And to me, that's complacency. Throughout my life, I have met so many people that have grown up thinking that they could do these amazing things, these things that they really are capable of, because I'm a full believer in, you can actually accomplish everything that you really set your heart and mind to. The problem is that not a lot of people follow through and really set their mind and heart to anything. And it's because life is hard, and really pursuing a passion or a project is a really difficult thing to do, and becoming successful is no easy task, and if it was, it wouldn't be gratifying. And the people that and this is just my opinion, but I feel that the people that do accomplish monumental tasks kind of through luck, also skill, but also luck is involved. So people that maybe find virality through YouTube or Facebook, or even being featured on a show like Dr. Phil, and then all of a sudden they're famous overnight without really having to put in too much effort. And this is, again, opinionated, because I don't know these people, and I'm not really referring to anyone specifically, but those people that, they kind of come out of nowhere overnight, and you can tell that there's a lot of growth that still needs to happen in that person or celebrity or whatever you want to call them. So there's all types of people, but success is something that it always comes with some sort of a cost, and that cost is usually time, effort, heart, tears, blood, sweat, all that stuff. And I think it's really easy for people to, as they're just going through life, to realize that becoming complacent and kind of just accepting the situation that they're in is a more desirable and easy situation and outcome than pursuing something that they're really, really passionate about and following through with it until they reach the goal that they have set for themselves. For me, those goals are becoming a published author, finding a following through my various creative outlets and stuff like that. But there are so many constant things that I've talked about in other episodes of this podcast that are frequently just beating me back and making me question the legitimacy of what I'm doing, or if it's worth the time and effort, or why I'm doing it in the first place. And it's all sorts of questions, and they're things that I kind of want to jump into in this episode so I can explain what's going through my head and what keeps me pushing forward, although sometimes I really have no idea what keeps me going forward. So I want to start by talking about what can sometimes prevent me from really, really wanting to do what I'm passionate about. And what gets me an inch closer to complacency. So I want to talk about the fact that, fuck, dude, I'm already really redundant this episode, but that's okay. So I'll focus on writing right now. I have gotten so many rejection emails from writing, and I've done a podcast on rejection months ago, so I don't want to retell too much there, but at the same time, I've done like 36 episodes of this thing by now, so there's going to be some repeated content. But I've gotten so many rejections, like hundreds upon hundreds of rejections for my books, for short stories going into papers, for people being on this podcast and all that stuff. And they start to wear on you. The first few that I got, I really liked because it meant that I was pursuing what I was trying to do. I was starting the grind that so few people that I was really like personally involved with were doing. I didn't have that many, and I don't have that many friends that are actively trying to become an author or trying to do something on their own that's not like, I don't know, because I don't want to disparage any sort of hobby, but a lot of people are not following the same path that I'm following. Granted, I'm not following the path that they're following either, and everybody's path is respectable and great in its own right. So, but I really don't have a lot of people that are trying to do a podcast or that are trying to make creative content on YouTube or writing and trying to take it somewhere. And so it was already hard to have a support system in terms of that, but it was also very hard it was exciting at first to get these rejections from people, but as they started to build up, it became very, very difficult. So I went from one rejection, which showed to me that I was on the track to becoming a published author because I got the first one. And you have to have a first for you to have a last. And so I was excited about it. And then after like the 10th rejection, I was like, well, this kind of sucks. And then after the 50th rejection, I was like, okay, well, now I need to reevaluate my work and really consider if it's worthwhile. And then I reevaluated the work and realized that it wasn't worthwhile. It wasn't bad, but it was not good enough to get into a bookstore. I'm fully aware of that. So I worked on another thing, and I made another book, and I did the exact same process. I went out and I applied to more agents, and after 10, I was excited, a little beaten down, but then after 50, you hit a point where you start to just hit that wall. And I don't know how to apply to agents. No one knows how they're doing anything until they're already doing it or how you're supposed to do it. So I've heard from some people saying that you should only apply to like 5 or 10 agents total. And then I've heard other people say that you have to throw it at every single agent that is even potentially, could potentially be interested in representing your work, because otherwise how are you going to find that right person? And so there's all sorts of different methods, but again, you really just have no idea. And you'll learn, as I'm sure you already have for some things, you don't know how to do anything until you've already done it. Like I had a turkey fly into my windshield one time and it just completely shattered, and I wasn't injured, and honestly the only thing on my car that was injured was the windshield, but it was still something like I had to call insurance, I had to call AAA to get my car towed because I couldn't drive, I couldn't see through the windshield. I had to get the windshield replaced, I had to have it towed from the place that I had taken it to the windshield replacement facility. I had to do all these things, and you have no idea how to do any of them until you're in the thick of it, and it's just like, well, now what next? And then you just figure it out as you go. Well, I was doing that for agents, and then after a while, I realized that the second book that I was working on wasn't worthwhile either, so I wrote a third one, and then I sent that out to a bunch of agents, and now I'm actually in the point where I've realized that maybe that one's not worthwhile either. But each time I write a new book, I get to the point of, this is going to be the one, because this is so much better than the last one that I've done. This is the one. This is the one that's really going to do it. So it really sucks whenever you have that realization and one that you decide on your own that it's not going to work out, because there's always going to be naysayers telling you that your work sucks or it's not going to cut it. And they may be people that are close to you, and they may be people that are really just trying to be malicious and get you down in the dumps. Happily, but also, it's a double-edged sword. I don't have a big following right now, so I don't really get that many negative comments. On the other side, I don't really have a big following right now, so I don't get that many positive comments either, but I don't need that kind of affirmation or validation from positive comments. I'd prefer to see no comments than a bunch of negative, but I can handle whatever comes at me. But seeing that, going through that process of creating something and realizing that it's not good enough repeatedly, time after time after time, and knowing and being aware that you're getting better, but still having to deal with that realization that it's not good enough. And in turn, you could internalize that, as I have many times, and thought, well, I'm not good enough. And what I'm creating isn't good enough, and I'll never be good enough. And then there's that self-doubt, and all of that stuff kind of builds into one packaged deal where you're sitting there thinking, well, if this book isn't it, then I can't write a fourth one. This is really hard. It's hard to write one book and get the idea for it and then get the motivation to follow through. And it's way harder to do it when you don't, when you're starting to realize that every book you make isn't good enough. Well, what about the next one? That one might not be good enough either. And so it's really hard to keep pushing forward. And between every time I write books, I really focus on short stories because I think it's really important to, one, get a bunch of these story ideas that have been on my mind out and just get them on paper and have fun with them that way and be able to tell these stories that will likely never get published and have fun with them that way. And also just enjoying writing. I read a lot of posts by people that are also trying to write, whether it be for hobby or for the professional status of writer or author. And there are so many people that just say that they absolutely hate it. And they're just like, no, I hate sitting down to write. I don't understand. I don't like any of the work that I do. I think it's awful. I hate committing to that. I hate finding time for it, but I feel like I have to. And I don't feel that way. I have this desperate need and urge to write. I love it. I love every second. And if I don't get away to do my hobbies or to write, I really start to freak out a little bit. It can be kind of weird because I'll sit there, and the past few days I've had plans, whether it's with family or friends or just other things that need done, like errands. And I haven't been able to find too much time to write or make YouTube videos or any of that stuff. And as a result, I've just kind of started tweaking out a little bit. I'm freaking out because I haven't been able to dedicate that time to reading as much or, talking to Alex as much or writing or creating something and being in that creative mindset and that space that I find so much comfort in. So that can be really hard. But so I have this weird drive, which I don't understand, and I never hope to understand it because I'm afraid that if I do understand it, then it will disappear because I'll find something to be scared of, like some sort of inferiority complex, or maybe worse, like a God complex, where I feel like I have to be the best at something. And in my personality, I think that there's a mix of both of those. So depending on the day and mood that I'm in. So, I think having a lot of confidence and believing that you're really good at stuff is helpful, but I also think having a modest, humble approach to everything is also helpful, especially for having authenticity in your brand and just as a person. Another reason that complacency is scary to me is because I'm worried why my stuff isn't getting traction. I know that everything is based on an algorithm. I have my podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. I do Facebook and Instagram, really kind of all over the place. Sometimes I'm really consistent, like one post a day on each platform, and other times I'm posting one or two a week, maybe. And it's just really hard to be consistent with that whenever you have so many other things going on that you're trying to maintain and keep up with. But part of me, and so I know that each individual social media or platform has its own algorithms. So there's organic growth and then there's paid growth. And if the organic comes from whatever Facebook thinks is going to get the most views and clicks, or Instagram or Spotify or whatever else. And so part of me is scared that if the algorithm is not deciding that the stuff that I do is good enough to be featured, that maybe it really isn't good enough, and maybe a robot is deeming the quality of my content not worth promoting. Another fear that I have is, what if someone finds my podcast and they think that I'm being insincere, or they think that I'm being pretentious, or or they think I'm an asshole. I don't have this everybody wants to be liked by everyone because no one wants to be that asshole. And even if, for me, I thought I wanted to be like an asshole for the entire first like 20 years of my life. And then I realized, oh, wait, maybe not. Maybe it's more fun to be the likable person. But you still get a mix of both. And I'm okay with some people thinking I'm an asshole. And I know that there's still plenty of people out there that think that based on actions and comments that I've made in the past. And I think they have every right to. But I also think that there are so many people that I will meet and have met recently that think that and I hope they think that I'm a stand-up person and really trying to help people. But part of me is worried that either people are not finding my podcast because the algorithms are thinking that I'm not necessarily good for people. And another part of me is thinking that people are listening and they don't hear the authenticity, and I kind of get scared with my own self-image there. And maybe that's paranoid, maybe that's just me feeling a little insecure about it, but it's something that I worry about. And then there's that other internal dialogue, which is, why do I even care about that? Because I'm doing it for me, because I like creating it, but I really do want to help other people too. So it's hard for me to figure out what my priority is and what I should be focusing on. Because if I'm just doing it for me, is it even worth promoting if I had the money to put towards promotion and advertising? Or am I doing it for other people, in which I should be catering the content exclusively to them? Should it be a mix of both? And will the algorithms like a mix of both, or are they only like one or the other? That one is probably going to be catering to an audience, and I don't want to do that because I want the brand to be my own. So there are so many conflicting thoughts that are going through my head, and that kind of scares me into complacency a little bit, or scares me into thinking that I would maybe become complacent with that, because it's hard to understand what you should be doing that right or wrong or anything like that. It's hard to figure out what direction you should be going in, whether it's your own personal life, your career, your relationships, and for me, my hobbies and brands. The other thing that's really easy to get complacent with is just other aspects of your relationships, your personal life, your career. I really like marketing a lot. I love it. I went to college for it. I think it's fun. I like the difficulty of trying to figure out how to get a brand and business in front of people using paid and unpaid methods. That's part of the reason that I like doing what I'm doing, is because I do like the marketing aspect and experimenting with all these different platforms and trying to figure out how you can reach people and what's a more effective way to reach people and what's not, and all that stuff. And I think that that's a lot of fun. But right now I'm currently, I was working in marketing, at least somewhat. It was sales at what I would deem a not very future-oriented company, hence my layoff. But now I'm working at a deli, and I don't even hate the deli. I've met a lot of really cool people that are down to earth and that I'm glad I've met. And the job that I'm working is not necessarily what I want to be doing for the rest of my life, but I don't think it's a bad job. I think it's a fine place to work. I think, again, the people are really nice. I think the company is fine, at least from the lowest level that you can see it, from just like an entry level employee. I think it's all fine, and I have no regrets with working there and currently working there. But it's not necessarily what I want to be doing, but it's really hard to think about, getting up and moving away from potential, like looking for a new job somewhere else where you might have to move from your family and friends and girlfriend and all these things, and not knowing what the plans are, and especially if you already have long-term plans built. So one thing for me is Alex and I are moving in together soon, actually with my brother, just based on once I got laid off, expenses were a little bit too high for my liking, so I was looking to cut back, and it was just kind of a perfect storm where everything worked out exactly how it kind of was supposed to, in my opinion, where Alex's lease ran up, and me and her were able to, in the apartment that I'm in right now, the year lease ended, and we're not sure what our plans are in the future. So it just made sense to move in with my brother, and he had just lost a roommate. So it all made sense completely. Well, from there, now I'm trying to think about what I want career-wise. For the longest time, I've been dating Alex for 2 years now, and I love her to death, and I can't wait to propose to her. I'm unable to do that. She knows it's coming eventually. We've talked about it and stuff, but I'm not in a place financially where I can do that yet. And I am really excited to spend the rest of my life with her. Just flat out. I think she's pretty cool. And but since I graduated college, whenever I first graduated, I was very, very I think that was probably like the height of my suicidal thoughts, and actually contemplating like either running away and starting an entirely new life, which I don't recommend, because I feel like anyone, that myself included, if you run away and try to start a new life, which I know is like a good thought, at least it was for me, because I was always tempted to be like, you know what, if I run away and restart, nobody will know me, my family and friends won't think about all the negative things that I've done. It'll be easy to forget about all those thoughts and memories that come up whenever I'm in the shower and it's me thinking and remembering how much of an asshole I was in those given moments. And it'd be so much easier to just kind of run and abandon those thoughts by running away. But I think if you run away, you're just destined to run away again, and that's not necessarily helpful. But whenever I graduated, I was really scared to go out into the real world, as I'm sure many people, basically everyone is. But I didn't feel emotionally or mentally capable of doing so. I genuinely thought that if I went to a new city and I didn't know anybody, then I would become very, very anxious, and I would become very, very lonely and depressed, and I would kill myself. Like, I'm convinced 100% that would have happened, because of how many times I thought about it, even though I stayed for a little while longer and looked for jobs closer to my college so I could stay in touch with my friends and my girlfriend and my family. And being able to do that, even while I was doing that, I still had all these very, very negative thoughts that I still have, but they're a little bit more contained now, and I know how to handle them a bit better. But, fast forward 2 years to where I'm at now, and I graduated college in December of 2017, and now I am going on about 2 years, a year and a half, a little longer than that, of being out, and I'm more emotionally and mentally capable of going out in the real world, whether it be by myself or with others. And now it's at a weird point where I'm working at this deli, but Alex is close to graduating, and I couldn't be happier for her, because she's so unbelievably smart. She's she's the smartest person that I've ever met, significantly smarter than me in many ways, especially considering I almost said farter instead of smarter, and I laughed at it because I thought it was hilarious. But maybe that's not necessarily intelligence, but maturity, which my maturity is very low. But I'm so unbelievably proud of her, and I couldn't be happier that she's going to be graduating soon and start her time in the workforce. And for the last 2 years, I was very adamant and truthful whenever I was saying I don't care about my own personal career. I'm just excited for you to graduate and for you to be successful, and then I'll make the rest work out from there. Like, I had no intention of being a bum or being a stay-at-home anything. I didn't know what I wanted. And now she's still 6 months out from graduating, and I am starting to figure out what I want. I'm starting to figure out that maybe I want a career with a business in marketing where I can help them form strategy. I'm even thinking that worst case scenario, if I have to get like an entry-level job and get people some coffee, I can still be part of those meetings and contribute something to them and do what I'm passionate about career-wise, which again is marketing and mostly strategy, but also the nitty-gritty where it's social media management and some analytics and statistics and all that stuff. Like, it's just, you bulk it all together and you get a complete career picture. And to me, I'm enthralled. I can't wait to get started. But this is after 2 years of me saying I couldn't care less about my career or anything. And part of the reason that this change has happened is because I realized that my hobbies, they may take a really long time to get started and to get a following. And there's a very high probability that I will never get any sort of a following. There's a chance that I could write the best thing ever and I still won't get published because my writing style is a little bit darker and twisted. more in line with Criminal Minds than anything else, because it's kind of sick. But I'm still proud of it and I love it, but I just don't know if other people will. Although with this current mentality towards like serial killers and stuff, I feel like people would be into it, because I write a lot about killers. But that's an unimportant tangent. So I'm super proud of Alex, and along with that, I'm proud of all my friends and how they've grown up and started their own careers and started to try to manage finances, work-life balance, relationships, and it's been a huge change for everybody, and I just happen to be the one sitting here talking about it, but I'm sure everybody's thought about very similar things in terms of what they're going to do with their lives. And I don't know what I'm going to do anymore, and it's really scary because I don't know. So I'm moving in with my brother, but I'm in a place locationally that does not have marketing jobs. Like, I swear to fucking God, I've exhausted every single one of them around here. Every single one. And I've looked and I've looked again and I've double checked, and I've decided that the location that I'm in right now is not the location I want to be in forever. It has not been kind to me in my career, and I feel like even if I did find a good job, if something were to happen, or if I wasn't happy there, or if I got laid off again, I would have a very hard time recovering. So I do not think that my current location makes sense to me. But I'm in this weird crossroads where I've now decided that I want something more. But I still have to wait 6 months until Alex graduates. And I'm moving in with my brother. So if I were to... And Alex has a very good internship right now that could very likely turn into a job opportunity, which would, again, kind of choose the location for me. But for all this time, I've just kind of thought, I'll do whatever it takes for Alex to be happy and have a fruitful career. And I still stand by that, and I'm still excited for it. And I haven't said anything that anyone would disapprove of in this podcast, I don't think. And if I have, whoops. But I don't think I have. So, I want everybody to have a fruitful career, especially Alex and myself. But for all this time, I've been comfortable letting her kind of take the reins. And, if you get a job in this area, then I'll try to just figure it out from there. But now that I'm more comfortable maybe going out on my own, or not going out on my own, but going out with her, I feel more comfortable being more of a decision maker in that process than just a follower. And that's a huge change for me because of how drastic a change it is just for my perspective on career. And honestly, that enough it's weird because I have this new perspective and new excitement about my career and what I want to do and where I want to go and who I want to be. But at the exact same time, I've never been more lost. I don't know where I want to be locationally. I don't even know if it's practical for me to consider looking for jobs right now just based on the timeline, and practicality isn't everything, but I don't know. My resume is looking kind of spotty right now with getting laid off and 3-month gaps in employment because of getting laid off, and working in fields that aren't necessarily marketing related, such as the deli right now. I'm scared about that stuff too, and I'm worried that if we go to a location that's based off of her decision, that I will continue to be unemployed or struggle. But if I choose a location that could be advantageous to me, it might not be good for her. And it's just, man, there are so many decisions. I made an episode called Catch-22 ages ago, and it was about all these decisions that there's no right answer for, and you can't go to anybody but yourself to find these answers, but there's always a trade-off. And it's just become so much more clear to me that that's just how life works. It's just a never-ending barrage of unanswerable questions and dilemmas where there is never a way to get out of the uncertainty. You always have to struggle to find the answer, and eventually it'll all work out if you believe it will and you have a good attitude about it, because then you'll be able to, probably with the most clear vision and like goggles that you could possibly have, you'll be able to make the best decisions for you. But sometimes it's hard to just not feel lost. And right now I feel pretty lost, and I'm confused about my hobbies. I'm not sure who I should be doing them for, or why and that makes me scared as to why I'm even doing it, because I'm worried about my own authenticity. But I feel like I'm being authentic, but I'm worried about it at the same time. And now I'm worried about career, but I'm also worried about my relationship, and I don't want to put any strain on that, even though, again, I feel like we're very strong and there's no issues there. There are just so many concerns, and man, it's stressful. And I talk about my concerns because I really want, at the very least, I want you to find comfort in knowing that everybody's life is a fucking mess all the time. And maybe that's not the most comforting thing, but just don't feel alone if you're going through hard times too. And I really hope that there's someone out there that's able to help you, because it can be really hard to take it alone, and it can be really hard to take it even if you have a support system made of exclusively like trained therapists and specialists and whoever the fuck else. It's just, life can be really, really hard, and it's really easy for it to just kick you to the ground and keep kicking you. And truthfully, I wish that there was this secret answer that I could give to prevent complacency, or to keep motivation up, or determination, or maintain a good work ethic in shitty circumstances. And I unfortunately don't have any sort of insight that I can give you that can affect you in a way that would be groundbreaking. I don't know why I do know why I keep writing and doing this podcast. I just like doing it, and it's fun, and because I found this joy in it, I have to keep coming back. I love telling stories. I love making videos. I like the editing process. I like recording my voice in hopes that I might be able to help people. That's a really exciting thing for me. And I do all these things because I love them, and I really hope they turn to something, but I don't know if they will. And that's okay. And it's fun regardless. And the important thing is to not don't give up. Like, there are so many things out there that you could make or do or participate in or support or volunteer with, and just don't give up. It's really easy to sit back and just look at your phone all the time, or watch TV all the time, and just let time pass you by, and eventually you'll be 65, and instead of smartphones, you'll have, I don't know, it'll just be in your head. You'll be able to have all the information streamed in through wireless. I don't fucking know. I'm just making stuff up. I'm not a sci-fi writer. But I really want everybody to just keep pushing forward, and it can be baby steps, especially, trust me, I know that more than anybody. Like, I've taken all this energy that I used to put into self-deprecating thoughts and self-hatred and suicidal thoughts, and I've taken all of that and taken it and put it into something that I think is more productive, which is my hobbies, but that doesn't mean that I figured out life. It just means that I'm not going to kill myself, which is good. That's a very comforting feeling, but that doesn't mean that life gets, it gets easier, trust me, but it's still a difficult ride. And if I were to tell you that it's going to be the easiest thing ever, then that would be a damn lie, and that would be setting you up for disaster. I want you to know that it's hard, but it's hard for everybody, and all you need to do is keep pushing forward and try to avoid that complacency. If you can avoid it, then you'll be okay. And it's hard to avoid. So, I'm 23, and I feel like I've gotten kicked down so many times that I'm ready to just give up. Now, I know I'm not going to just because of what I'm interested in and how I am as a person, but I understand it if other people do give up, and there's no shame in it. I really don't think that there's shame in just kind of like settling where you're at, as long as you can find happiness in it. But if you have something that you're passionate about, please God, keep pursuing it, because there's too many cool things in this world that could be made, done, or created in some way. Or there are so many cool things out there that can be helped by more people staying passionate and not getting beaten down by the system. I sound like George Orwell, because it's like Big Brother's keeping you down, but sometimes it really feels like that. So I think I've gone on long enough, and I'm exhausted. I've been opening at the deli, so I'm getting up pretty consistently at like 5:30, 5:40 in the morning. So I'm ready for bed, and I hope you're able to take something from this, even if it's just comfort in the fact that everybody's struggling. So have a wonderful time. I hope you enjoyed listening to this, and I'd love to hear from you if you have comments, questions, emails, anything. I'd love to hear from you. I think that'd be a lot of fun. So, bye, friends. Have a wonderful week.